Hey, this week the buzz is all about the closure of everyone's favorite race car related eatery and a new Universal deal for military families. But later we'll be talking all about this year's Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando. From the Bob Varley studio, this is episode 18 of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. The Diz Unplugged Universal Edition is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. I'm Craig Williams.
And I'm Sean Thompson.
And before we get started here, I'm actually going to spring a little bit of housekeeping on because we've never done that before, so this would be springing it.
Well, it's been a very smooth transition so far, so good job.
First off, I want to apologize that we didn't come to you last week like we were supposed to, come to you in your living rooms or computer rooms or whatever you are.
Let's be honest, while you're sitting on the toilet.
For some of you out there. We were just way too bogged down with our getting recuperated from California trip. I was feeling ill in multiple ways, so we're back here tonight, though, and we're going to do a big double show. Count that double show. So we are going to do our normal Buzz and Horror Nights Orlando segment like we're supposed to, and then immediately after we are going to be recording live our Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood show as well, which will be released the week after because Sean and I will actually be on a cruise, on a Royal Caribbean cruise as part of Universal Orlando's Land Sea package where you do a 3 or 4 night stay at Universal with a 3 or 4 night Royal Caribbean cruise on the Enchantment of the Seas.
It's enchanting, I heard.
It should be.
Yeah.
It's the sea, the ship where Marty McFly and he tried to get his parents back together in Back to the Future.
Mr. I'm my own grandpa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, we'll be on that. So we're going to do a big double show tonight.
That's going to be exciting.
Release it tomorrow. And then, of course, we're doing that show, the Land and Sea package show, for a big blowout that will start off the beginning of next year.
I think they call that the podcast sweeps.
Well, no, that usually happens kind of in the middle, doesn't it?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I just wanted to stay relevant.
We'll be doing that show later on in our time, but at the beginning of next year. So definitely get excited about it. I know we are.
You got 3 months to get excited for it. So
yeah, but it's going to take us about 3 months to actually prepare all of our thoughts and get everything out on pen and paper the way we do.
Because we're going to write it out in a novel first, and then we're going to do a podcast about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to take the time to do a shout out to David Coviello. We forgot to on the Disney World edition this morning, but at the Massachusetts Give Kids the World meet that we were at this past weekend, David, one of our listeners of all shows and everything, he decided to dress up like myself, and then his brother dressed up like Sean for a Halloween costume party, and
it was probably the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was really amazing. We didn't have a good big picture ready for the show, but
but it'll be in the show notes for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's the first time anyone's ever dressed up like me.
Yeah, but
I got to be honest, I think it's pretty easy to dress up like me. It was plaid shirt, glasses, cargo shorts, and a hat.
I agree. You're pretty boring.
I am boring.
However, David went above and beyond with me and even got stuff that I don't own, hair way longer than mine ever is.
I thought it was like Carrot Top version of Craig.
I know. It was pretty hilarious, but just wanted to say hey to David because it was incredible. It sucks that we didn't get to have a picture of all of us together. But you know what? Keep doing it, and eventually we'll see each other again, and that will be the future.
Getting weird.
Again. Yeah. It is. But before we get anywhere even further into it, I want to say We do every time. Thanks for tuning in to us. If you like what we're doing and you haven't yet subscribed to us on iTunes, do that. Make sure to leave lots of comments there.
They don't have to be nice comments. They can be mean comments.
Just tell the truth. So that way other people who find us through iTunes will actually know if we're good or not. And then if you haven't gotten on Facebook recently, Diz Universal has a new Facebook page. I didn't even think about it.
I know. We have a huge thing to talk about, and we didn't even think about it getting ready for the show. But let's finish with this. Or do you want to talk about it?
No, go ahead with that. My nose itches.
All right, your nose itches. So basically what we've done is we have launched our brand new Universal section of the Diz. So if you go on wdwinfo.com, we have a brand new Universal section at universal.wdwinfo.com. And it's completely redone. The new design, new way of presenting content. So it's really exciting. We worked very hard on it, and it's a process. We're not completely finished with it, obviously, but we're excited to have it live and to have people go to it and visit it and use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
To learn about Universal. So.
Yeah, and this is just kind of the first phase launch. We're going to be adding new features into it. We're going to be cleaning up a lot of the content, adding tons and tons of new content into it. But the only way we can really improve upon it is if we also get lots of feedback from everyone out there. So if you have anything that you want to suggest to us, what you like, don't like, then you can go on to finally now our new Facebook page.
Yes.
Facebook.com/The Diz Universal. Everything we were trying to go with Diz Universal, it didn't work out. So it's facebook.com/The Diz Universal.
Exactly.
And you'll be able to do everything on there. We'll be posting updates on there, and also along with our Twitter page, twitter.com/Diz Universal @Diz Universal. I am getting really confusing with all this stuff, but you know what?
It's going to be nice and organized on the show notes page. So
exactly.
There we go.
That's why they're there.
Yeah.
So, of course, later on in the show, we are going to be discussing Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando. We're going to kind of run down a list of our thoughts on the houses, the scare zones, the shows. But before we get to that, I think we need to talk about what's buzzing on the grapevine. Ha 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 jokes.
Laughter for 8 minutes.
Okay, so do you want to handle what's trending now for the first one?
I was actually hoping to do the second one. So
well, if you insist. So NASCAR Sports Grille.
I mean, I can do both of them if you would like, but I think the military one is more important.
That's fine. Okay. NASCAR Sports Grille is closing November 1st. So rumors started circulating from employees of NASCAR Sports Grille at City Walk that the restaurant was going to be closing after October 31st. It's been in City Walk and operating for the past 15 years. So
it's an original, right? It's been there since the beginning?
Yeah. And it's kind of on the way to walking through the City Walk, the main pathway that will lead to the parks. And then it's actually the last restaurant that you'll pass on your right before you get to Universal Studios Florida.
It's the closest one to the park.
Exactly.
It's the restaurant that people hit first.
Mm-hmm. And you'll also notice one major thing about it, if you've gone recently, it's usually very, very empty unless it's raining and people use it for storm shelter. So the rumors actually came to fruition, and it's been confirmed that the last full day of operation will be this Halloween, and afterwards the NASCAR-themed restaurant will be shutting its doors for good.
No, I've never eaten here. I don't know if you have.
I haven't eaten there either. We attempted to go in one time with Corey, and we walked out.
Okay, sure. I've been inside the building.
I've been inside the building. It's very loud. It's very noisy. There's lots of TVs on inside that are playing sports.
It's a very specific audience and demographic. Yeah. It's very much a sports bar, specifically NASCAR, obviously.
And there's lots of racing games inside and outside. I know there's great drink specials there. The food is like bar food quality style, probably the same quality that you'd even get at Hard Rock Cafe and even Margaritaville. That same similar type of menu. So we're going to definitely be going over there to check it out before it's gone for good.
Exactly.
And the big thing is it was kind of inevitable that this was going to happen because the whole renovation period started last year in 2013 with Red Oven Pizza Bakery. And since then, they opened up Anahito's, Vivo Italian Kitchen, Hot Dog Hall of Fame, Bread Box, Menchie's, Cold Stone, a bigger Starbucks. And they took out a lot of stuff to start this whole process. And they couldn't have been done with everything after after doing all that, I mean, you would have been left with Emeralds as in the original kind of lineup of Recent and Hard Rock Cafe, NBA City, Margaritaville. That all just kind of felt a bit strange compared to the new
I got to
things
be
that
honest,
were
I'm
being
surprised
put
they're
in.
closing this one first and not NBA City. I never see that busy.
True. I think NBA City is coming.
It's coming soon. And there's that
Very
awful
soon.
Prometheus statue out front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting restaurant to say the least. We still have Cowfish Orlando coming,
Which I think is coming soon.
Yeah.
And they're getting a lot of construction working on that. So
which they were supposed to open at the end of summer, and then we heard some rumors too that it was going to be November, and so it's probably going to end up being November. But for those of you who haven't heard us rave about it before, Cowfish Orlando is going to be a version of Cowfish from North Carolina. It's a mixture burger sushi bar.
yeah, so the concept was made because the one guy liked sushi, the one guy didn't care for it, so they wanted something, more traditional like burgers, so they decided to go together, make an awesome restaurant that has both things. And the design is fantastic, the menu was great. I'm so excited for this to open up because it's going to be the perfect place to go at City Walk.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of many more things to come, just because the food has been getting so good, especially since the renovations going all the way back to Wizarding World of Harry Potter Hogsmeade. That kind of set the trend for how food at Universal was changing in general with their Three Broomsticks restaurant. That was amazing food, amazing for a theme park, and ever since then the food quality has just been going uphill with Springfield and then the new restaurants. So
Completely agree.
Yeah, not only is the renovations just flowing like crazy, the food's getting better, and I'm excited to see what replaces it. They haven't announced
Which
anything,
I find surprising. They haven't announced anything what they're going to be doing. They just said it's going to close. So I don't know if it's going to sit for a while or if they have something in mind that they're going to open up.
Yeah, no idea. I hope to see construction walls go up as soon as November 1st hits. And
It's
they start
prime
getting
real
work
estate, though.
consulted.
Like I said, it's right next to the park. It's the first thing you reach when you exit Universal Studios. So
Absolutely.
I think whatever goes in has to meet up to those
Yeah,
expectations.
they're definitely going to find something to draw people in.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't have anything
go.
else to say about that.
We're gonna go try it. So we'll tweet stuff and put stuff on Facebook. Maybe write a post about it before it leaves. So.
Absolutely. So why don't you move us on to the military film?
All right, so the second buzz is actually really exciting to me. Universal has announced two fantastic offers for active duty and retired military families that are going to be traveling at the end of the year. The first is a ticket option for service members to purchase a one-day park-to-park ticket and get 2 days for free, which I think is fantastic on its own.
Yeah.
All you got to do is pay for the 1 day, and then you get 3 days. Eligible members are allowed to buy up to 6 tickets, so it's good for big families. And then the dates on this, you must purchase them before November 30th, and then you must use them in full by December 14th. So there is kind of a smaller window. But if this fits in your traveling plans and you were going to come here anyway, I think it's perfect.
Yep.
Especially if you were coming to like the area in general, maybe even Disney. This is the perfect incentive, I think, to add this on to a Disney vacation.
I absolutely agree.
Admission is actually valid up to 14 days from the first use, which I think is perfect because people come here for more than just Universal, more than just Disney, so you can kind of intertwine it with other things. And then the second one, it kind of piggybacks with the ticket deal and adds a stay at Cabana Bay with your ticket. So a special military rate includes the 1 day park-to-park ticket with the 2 free days, along with a 3-night stay at Cabana Bay for just $269 per adult with tax included.
Yep.
Which is really unbelievable when you think that price includes 3-day tickets, park hopper tickets, and 3 nights at a hotel for one person.
Yeah, it's bizarrely low.
It's one of the best rates I've seen, and I think it's fantastic that they're doing this for military families. I know my family's going to actually take advantage of this.
No, it's an absolutely amazing deal. And of course, they have to be purchased through the base offices. I know you can shed a little more spotlight on what that is. And
yeah, so they can be purchased at the base ITT and LTS offices. So obviously, if you're military, you know what those are. But
what
you can
if
buy
you're
them
not
at base.
military?
Then you can't get this deal.
Well, I know, but explain it for people who aren't military what that is.
All right, so you get them at the travel centers on base.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. It's not very confusing.
I had to read about it until I knew about it.
Okay. Yeah, you buy them on base.
Yeah.
And then when you get down here, they activate them. It's really simple. But it's a fantastic deal. Definitely take advantage of it if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I hope that they do more of these kind of offers next year, especially if you are already planning on coming on a vacation.
I did read that they actually year-round they always have a consistent ticket deal. I don't know what the details are in that, but the fact that they year-round you can go to one of those base offices and get discount tickets to Universal. I mean, that's great on its own. However, this is a steal of a deal if you're able to make those travel arrangements at the last second like that, which do you think it's normal for people in the military to be doing that? I would say no.
To be doing what?
To be able to like fit this last second trip in.
Last second. Yeah. It depends. It all depends on everything. I know for my parents, they have to plan their vacations, their trips pretty far in advance. However, there are opportunities, like my parents are a perfect example. They had a trip planned during this time. Yeah. So it adds seamlessly into what their plans already were. So I think it's just a case-by-case situation, and if you can, take advantage of it for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a great deal, and of course all the links to more information like that will be in the show notes page. But that is actually everything that is buzzing right now.
Are you sure?
It is.
Okay.
However, we also do have a breaking news announcement.
We do have breaking news, which I consider I think it's buzzing.
Yeah.
It's buzzing louder than any of those other two things.
Okay, why don't you throw it out there then? I know you're most excited about this mustache man.
Everyone's favorite mustached, three-piece suited man, comedian, TV host, just in general, just favorite TV personality, Steve Harvey, is going to be filming his show at Universal in November. The dates are... They're filming on the 4th, 5th, and 6th, right here in Universal. And there's a link that you can actually put your name in to win tickets to go see a taping of his talk show. And it's the most insightful, informative, inspiring talk show that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it blows everything out of the water. So I obviously have already signed up for tickets, and I hope that I get them.
Oh, I mean, I can absolutely say tickets are going to go quick.
Yes.
Everyone loves Steve Harvey. He's America's sweetheart.
He is America's sweetheart, and I just hope that he's half the man that Kenan Thompson is when he plays him.
It's not the first time that Steve Harvey has visited down here. He's been here before whenever they would tape Family Feud. At Universal, sometimes they would do some special shows. They did one with the TNA Wrestling whenever they were having a nice little stay for a while. So I think it's great that Steve Harvey can be welcomed back to Universal Orlando with open arms.
I can't imagine why he wouldn't be.
His mustache always has a home at Universal, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a spokesperson for them, but...
Who, the mustache or Universal?
Both.
Okay.
So, once again, too, we will have the links to where
we have to, because I want everybody that has the opportunity to see Steve Harvey to see Steve Harvey.
Yeah. And if not, look for us in the crowd if we get tickets or not.
We will be there weeping because we're so happy.
I mean, I might be busy doing anything, breathing, eating, sleeping.
You got to go shopping at Walmart?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will be there in the audience for sure.
Good for you. But now that is going to officially do it.
That'll close the buzz.
Everything that's buzzing. And with that, we're going to move on to our spotlight on the universe, which this week, of course, is Halloween Horror Nights Orlando. As if we haven't already talked about it enough, we're going to talk about it some more. So,
well, we haven't actually talked about it since we've experienced everything. So this is a big deal.
Yeah, and I mean, I've experienced it just a tad bit more than you, and by that I mean one night.
Stop bragging.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I sometimes do that.
Yeah, you do a lot.
We have a lot to discuss with it, all of our feelings, all of our thoughts and stuff about all that junk that happens there. But before we get to that, I made a little overview video of everything that happens at Halloween Horror Nights Orlando. So we're going to go ahead and play that so you guys get an idea of what it's like before we start talking about it, especially for all those first timers there. So Here we go.
Targets to us. Now I've come to a conclusion that our target is hiding amongst you. If you do not assist us in fighting them, we will release the beast.
Now let's see. We're going to start the bidding for these three at $100,000. Our starting price for these three is $350,000. We have 4 spaces available.
Okay, Well, thank you all for sitting there watching that.
I hope it was fun.
Yeah,
There was some
it was-
maniac giggling in the background.
Yeah, there was some crazy person giggling in the background whenever they should have been scared. But that was just a little bit of an overview of everything that happened at Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando.
Yeah.
There's a lot more, and as we get less busy, we'll be releasing lots of pictures, lots of video about it. But we just don't have enough time during the day.
We'll get there. It'll be nice to
We'll
kind
get
of
there,
spread it out. Yeah.
So we are going to jump right into it, though, and get through this. We're going to talk about first the two shows that are happening this year. We, of course, have Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure,
Okay.
along with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I think we should flat out start off by saying that neither one of us has actually watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, the tribute, this year.
This year. We saw it multiple times last year.
Yeah, it's an awesome show.
Yeah.
We just haven't gotten time around to actually go and experience it. From everything I've heard from my friends that have seen it, it is the same exact show from last year. Some new actors, most of them the same. It's a solid show.
It is. It's a great show.
It shouldn't be missed. But let's talk about actually Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, because we have seen it twice, and we have opinions about it.
We do have opinions about it, and this is actually a funny one because it was actually canceled in Hollywood.
Yeah.
There was some controversy last year, and so they actually just took it off the slate completely.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no longer offered in Hollywood, and I think there was a period of time where they thought maybe it wasn't even going to come back here.
Yeah.
However, it did, which is great. It's a very funny show. It's obviously geared towards kind of pop culture references, kind of current references like that. But it's also a lot of like shirtless people dancing, and there's obviously that kind of factor to it. You've got like these big dance numbers and kind of silly, like kind of sleazy, kind of, I don't know, dancing and stuff like that.
And you won't see any pictures or videos from that because you're flat out not allowed to take any of those type of mediums on it. It's very heavily guarded.
You can do pencil sketches.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we didn't have the time for that or the materials.
Or if you're a stenographer, you can write down everything that's happening.
Like a courtroom. Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of the show, if you've never seen it before, it is definitely something you would have to get used to. Going in to see, you might be confused at first, maybe offended, maybe walk out. It definitely takes a little bit knowing the characters to get into, I think, in my opinion. Have you ever even seen Bill and Ted?
No, I have no reference to that, and that doesn't bother me one bit.
Okay, well, I guess I'm wrong in that
I
aspect.
disagree.
Then.
Yeah, I think it's just like I said, it's very topical. It's a very pop culture reference. They go within the past year or so, but more recent than that. I'd say most of it focuses on the past 6, maybe 4 months.
So, and let's start off by saying right now there are going to be spoilers coming. So, for anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, turn this off now.
I'd be willing to say that this whole segment is pretty much going to have some spoilers in it. So
That's a good point.
Not overly so, but at least some to at least give an opinion.
That's a good point. So the show, of course, stars Bill and Ted. One of the biggest recurring jokes that they try to make stick is courtesy of Donald Sterling of the NBA.
Yes.
Controversy the past year. We won't talk about our stance on any of that, but
I don't think we have opinions that are weird, but I would just say that there was a lot of kind of like racist jokes, obviously, because that's how the whole controversy centered around.
Yeah.
So they kept bringing that back again, but it was obviously a younger person playing Donald Sterling, and it was kind of like over the top weird, I don't know, old man kind of thing. And the funny thing is we saw it on the preview night, and we thought maybe they would retool it and edit it. The first, I'd say 25 minutes of the show really seemed to drag. It didn't get you into the groove of the whole kind of comedy thing until about that 25 or 30 minute mark. And they didn't. As far as I know, it's still the same.
No, it's not. It's still the same. And the whole plot of this show is that Bill and Ted are going into a fraternity that students are mysteriously dying. So kind of 21 Jump Street style. They're two older guys breaking into a fraternity and trying to become a part of it, and along the way, all of a sudden, you find out everyone that goes to the college needs to have a magical tracking band, which is an obvious rip on Disney's Magic Band.
Which has been a theme in the show, at least for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
They try to poke fun at Disney as much as they can.
Exactly. And so along the way, then you have all the pop culture celebrities coming out, a lot of them going to the school apparently because they're wearing the magical tracking bands, and they'll pop out and they'll do their little bit with it, and then they eventually die like all the other students are.
They do eventually die.
And
Since we're on this path of talking about kind of their jabs at Disney, I think we should talk about probably the highlight of the show, which we won't go into full detail. But obviously, since Frozen is this huge, crazy thing that Disney's marketing like crazy people, they definitely take a stab at Frozen and Elsa in particular. And they're one of the funniest parts, I would argue, is the funniest part of the show is when Elsa comes out and sings her version of "Do You Want to Eat a Snow Cone?"
Yes.
So obviously, there's a reference to her weight, and it's really funny.
Yeah, it's flat out a fat Elsa.
It's a fat Elsa.
the actress who does it last year, she portrayed Melissa McCarthy in a little bit of a Heat reference.
A Heat reference,
and she's one of the highlights of the cast.
She's
in
so
general.
talented.
She probably is the highlight of the cast.
I'd argue that she absolutely is, and she also does she plays Red from Orange Is the New Black. She plays that character in the beginning of the show. So that's hands down. And about 35 minutes in is when it really catches its stride, and they do this Elsa number, and it's perfect.
Yeah, and other highlights are, for me at least, where the How to Train Your Dragon bit mixed up with The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, and they do a little poke at Maleficent, and
They do. Basically, if you go to this, don't judge it by the first 20 or so minutes. Let it go and at least give it a chance.
Yeah,
because it really does pick up. But
it absolutely does. So it's definitely something that I think should be watched. And best advice for it is try to make it to the first show. And if you can't make it to the first show, try to wait to the last. But make sure you definitely set aside some time for it. It's a great show. And if you go yearly to Halloween Horror Nights, or you plan on going yearly, it's definitely something you should see it every year to have reference.
This was my second year, so it was nice to see how they reworked it, added more current things. They changed the storyline up a bit, so it was neat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for the shows. So let's move on to the houses. And I think we're going to count down the houses in terms of our favorites, and also throw in a little bit of street zones in it, the scare zones.
All right.
Just so we keep it a little fresh, keep you waiting to know what our favorite house actually was. But we're going to start off with the combined 7 and 8. There's 8 houses, of course.
There are.
The first time we went on the preview night, our number 8 house was Alien versus Predator.
It was. And this is probably surprising. Well, I don't know if it's surprising to anybody, but a lot of people are saying this is their absolute favorite.
Yeah.
And I understand if you have a really strong connection to those franchises and those movies. I didn't so much. I appreciated it for what it was. I think it was, there are some cool parts of it, but overall, I think either the timing was just not right for us, or it just, I don't know, wasn't that well put together for us.
Yeah, I mean the design in it was cool. It was more or less on the kind of the spacey side of it. It was going through the Wyland Tech facility, and so it was very industrial. However, the whole thing's Alien versus Predator, and the alien would pop out at you, and then a couple scenes later, you'd be walking through, and then the Predator would pop out at you, but it never felt like Alien and Predator were fighting each other, which is the whole point of the house.
It
and
definitely
you're just
felt
stuck
like
in the middle of it.
different moments.
Yeah.
And
But the design of it was beautiful. The puppetry was incredible. They learned from the tactics they used in An American Werewolf in London and put it in Alien versus Predator. And the aliens, every time they popped out, I thought it was fantastic, and you could just see the details on these puppets, and it was phenomenal. And that's why I think that one actually moved to our 7 spot after we saw it during the opening night. And our number 7 one, which was Dracula Untold, Reign of Blood, that probably fell down to number 8 after we saw it on the opening night.
I agree with that. Dracula Untold, the theming is really cool. It's very medieval. Obviously, it's based after the movie, which I've never seen. You haven't seen either. But the theming is cool. It's very medieval. There, you go into a kind of a castle kind of design structure, and then you go through the town. And I'll be honest though, with this one, I feel like if you hadn't told me that this had anything to do with Dracula, I would have never known, because I didn't remember even seeing a Dracula. I know you did. Maybe once, twice.
I saw one time.
Okay.
A vampire.
A vampire, not a Dracula.
Yeah, it might not have been. I don't know if it was Dracula.
Could have been the one and only.
It comes out on this Friday, so whenever this goes live. But,
okay, yeah. The movie's not even out yet.
Yeah, the movie's still not even out yet.
Well, obviously we haven't seen it.
it just wasn't. It didn't scare me at all.
No.
We had horrible timing going through this house. It was kind of pretty to look at. It was very medieval in a sense, but
I'd argue that it was very pretty to look at. I think
Yeah.
the design, the design of it was great. There are some cool moments where they even use smell. You go through kind of like a witch's house.
Yeah.
She's kind of like a grandmother. What's the Hands on Gretel type
Gingerbreadish.
gingerbread, and
Yeah.
they put gingerbread smell into the air like she's baking, and I don't know. There's some cool things to look at. I think that's nice.
there are. But I would argue that if you're going to skip one house this year, that would be the house to skip.
I would
hands
agree.
down.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And so that's going to be our
Those are our bottom two.
Bottom two
Yeah.
of that. And with that, we're going to talk about our bottom scare zone as
Yes.
well. Just throwing that in there.
So there are 4 scare zones.
Yes.
And for us, our least enjoyed one was Face Off in the Flesh.
Yeah.
Which is sad because they really hyped this one up. There was a lot of marketing for this because it tied into the show. So the idea was that these looks came from the TV show, the competition show where makeup designers compete to create whatever the scariest,
Yeah,
most interesting kind of creature.
yeah.
But the scare zone is weird in the fact that it's basically just a glorified photo opportunity.
Exactly.
You have these kind of small stage prop things set up throughout the scare zone, which the creatures and the makeup are actually standing on. So they're just there. They're not scaring anything. And then each one is accompanied by 2 or 3 minions in the street, which are actually doing the physical scaring, like jumping out at you and trying to scare you in the street.
Yeah, and I mean, just walking around the street, this one's in the Hollywood section of the park, and it's a really nice wide pathway, but there is a bit of confinement whenever you have all these people stopping to take pictures. And I was noticing people getting flat out annoyed that they were being scared by these minions whenever they just wanted a picture. And to me, that makes it almost a failure as a scare zone. If you can't make it like an actual scary place and it's just a glorified photo opportunity, then it's not doing its job. Even I didn't like last year whenever The Walking Dead took over every inch of the park, but at least there was still people scaring you or attempting to scare you. This one the whole atmosphere of it doesn't play out in the right way.
I agree.
And that's why it is our least favorite of the scare zones.
Yes.
But if you're not confused yet, let's jump back to the houses.
Yeah, this is a great format. So we're going to talk about our next least favorite house, which would be Giggles and Gore Incorporated.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying least favorite, but that's probably not the right term. It's
Yeah,
just-
at this
the one
point, it's not least favorite
No, because
anymore.
we still enjoy them, obviously, and they were so great, but we're just working our way to our
Our
favorite.
big
so.
number 6.
Yeah, so this is number 6, Giggles and Gore Incorporated.
Yep.
The theme to this is obviously clowns gone
Yeah.
insane. And this one's a blacklight house, so everything's painted in colors.
Blacklight paint.
Blacklight paint. And then it kind of glows in the dark.
Yeah. And the whole point of the house was clowns or people in general are kidnapped and then they are transformed into these evil clowns. So all their guts are ripped out and they're replaced with stuff and fluff and just really, really gory inside the house. And it starts off right when you walk in and there is like electroshock therapy happening with a girl, and while another one's doing the Clockwork Orange style
I liked that part.
brainwashing I liked it. It was a nice little nod. It had Woody Woodpecker playing in there, and Woody Woodpecker is one of the official icons of Universal. So that's a nice little
That's a nice
tip
little
of the
Easter egg.
hat to it.
Okay.
But then you just keep going through, and the clowns were so creepy looking. We were actually lucky enough the first time to see them as they were doing a set change.
That was kind of freaky. We were in line outside, queuing up, and they just walked. They all walked past us in a big long line, and they were doing photo ops and stuff. Or they weren't doing photo ops, but you could at least take a picture of them outside of their natural house.
Yeah, and one of the scariest tactics used in this house is you'll see like a glass door, and you'll kind of see a clown through it, and then that light will go off in there, and then they'll pop out the side. They use it in other houses as well too. There's nothing really super unique that sets apart this house.
I think it's a fun one. This was a really fun one because it's kind of crazy. I mean, not that we're going to really focus on this, but they use some shorter actors to play some really short clowns.
Yeah.
Is that the best way to say that? And those are kind of the fun. the most fun ones, and they kind of
They
scare
are.
you the most because the height is kind of,
Because you usually see one of them followed by one of the guys that's 6'8", 400 pounds with his shirt off.
it goes back and forth. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, so this is just a really fun one, and
It
the
is.
colors are great, and it kind of messes with you. It's not 3D.
Yeah.
You don't have to wear glasses or anything. Actually, Orlando doesn't have one of those,
They don't.
which
And
I like.
I almost feel like they were trying to potentially add in this feature
I
with
agree.
the design of it, and they decided at the last second to not do it. I'm glad they didn't, because it would have fallen down further on the list. However, the reason why it's not higher than 6 is just because the rest of the houses to come were just so awesome. So moving on into that, we'll go to number 5, and that is From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah. So in preparation, I know that the show is actually based. I'm sorry, the house is actually based on the show,
Yeah.
the new show, which is on El Rey, everyone's favorite cable network. However, I just watched the movie because I wasn't familiar with it at all. So just to get familiar with it, I actually watched the movie, and I really enjoyed this house.
Yeah. Oh no,
It's hilarious.
the house is great. And of course, I went back and took the time to watch
Yeah.
on Netflix the From Dusk Till Dawn Robert Rodriguez El Rey network series, and then I also watched the movie as well. So I got the total combination of everything from Dusk Till Dawn. This house did such a good job representing not only the TV series but also the movie too. So if you weren't really familiar with one, you still got it with the other. And I mean, that's just saying that about the TV series as well. It did just such a good job of really fleshing out that movie even more. But hilarious. They have the doorman out front already kind of like taunting people as they're going into the Twister.
I think that they did a great job at taking some of like the really raunchy parts of the movie and the
Yeah.
concept of everything, but then tailoring it just enough so that it was appropriate for a theme park.
Yeah.
But you still got that kind of like really campy, kind of over the top essence that the movie had,
Yeah.
which I really appreciated.
Yeah, and I mean, it followed along with the scenes pretty much to a T, and you got the gist of the whole story from it. The Gecko brothers make an appearance. All the characters from the TV show are in there, so you can't fault them for not doing that. The scares were actually pretty good in this house too.
Oh, I thought they were great.
Definitely more vampires in this than there were in Dracula.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this one was already a really loud house because of the blaring music that plays through it. But so then they have to overcome that with actually loud shrieks every time they step out to scare you. And it was a super, super loud house. You're going to walk out a little deaf, but it definitely is up there.
I also think that the design, like the floor plan design of this one, was one of the best out of
Yeah.
the whole Halloween Horror Nights. It really does a good job of taking you through the storyline of the plot of the movie and TV
Yeah.
show, I thought. So just the way it was organized, and you eventually go through the bar and everything. So I thought it was really cool.
I agree, and
Yeah.
that's why it
It's
comes
number
in
5.
at number 5.
Yeah.
So
Should we go back to the street, to the scare zones?
Why not?
All right, so number 3 scare zone is going to be the Purge Anarchy, which is based on the movie series. I got distracted.
Okay.
I started thinking of other things. So yeah, this is based on the Purge, which is basically about one day a year, people can just kill people
Yeah.
and commit crime, and they can get away with it.
Yep.
So they took kind of elements of the movie and made this huge scare zone. And there are people running around with masks, like animal masks and knives and chainsaws and everything, and they're kind of coming after you. And then there's actually a little show aspect that goes along with it, which I know you saw. I didn't.
Yeah.
I only saw parts of it. But they do an auction where there's a lady standing up, and she will bid off people that you can kill.
Yeah. So the Purge actually starts at the beginning of the night. Whenever you first get ready to go into Halloween Horror Nights, they start off the main show before you go in. Last year they did a Walking Dead one. This year they did one with the Purge where they have the alarm getting ready to go off, and they declare like the Purge is about to begin after the sirens, and you see some of the characters kind of standing up over the ticket windows, and they're kind of looking down at you, and
They're looking at you like they want to kill you.
well, yeah, I mean, they're going to figure out someone to kill for sure. I know that without a doubt.
you?
And then the Purge starts, you enter in the park, and then after that, the Purge is relatively pretty much just back in the New York area of the park, and they have this big stage set up right in front of the park area, and that's where the auction happens. From the Purge Anarchy, there's a auctioneer aspect to it. I apologize, I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters.
She kind of looks like Jane Lynch, but
yeah. And so they'll have a truck pull up with a bunch of victims, and they pull them out of this truck and then take them up on this stage, and they start an auction about who will bid the most to actually get the chance to kill them as part of the Purge. And it's a nice short little show. It doesn't really add anything to the experience. I felt like it needed to be a lot longer in terms of making it enjoyable, but it is what it is. And then whenever she's not out there to combat that, you'll have the main purger from the actual first movie.
just the guy in the suit.
Yeah, the guy in like the school uniform suit with the smiling face, and he'll have a microphone and going around and picking out victims for all the scare actors in this area to go after. And that's kind of why this didn't live up to what I expected from this. I was hoping that it would be all the characters just going around and trying to get everyone, but they actually stick to the story pretty well.
They added a lot of story into it.
Yeah, they'll only go after the ones that they are really told to go after, and that's great, especially if you're one of the lucky ones to get picked. But like walking through, I felt disappointed that I didn't have a single person actually even attempt to scare me.
I didn't have that experience, but I will just say, I mean, that happened a couple times for me. People came up and had their knife and kind of up. While the guys with the chainsaw and the saws and the guys with the knives were scary, I think one of the scariest parts are actually the girls in this scare zone. Yep. It's really iconic from the movie, and probably the trailer, if you're even familiar with that, is a girl in kind of a white dress skipping down the hallway in this really eerie kind of blank face mask.
Yep.
And those are all over the place. They've got several girls in this scare zone just skipping around, carrying this huge machete and kind of scaring people. So I think that's a really effective part of this. But
okay, well, that's where the Purge comes in. Number 3 out of 4 for scare zones. Let's jump back into the houses. And at number 4, we have The Walking Dead, End of the Line. So
the biggest house in history.
Yeah, the longest and filled with the most scare actors. And last year, The Walking Dead was actually probably my least favorite house. This year, obviously, it jumped up on the list because it made it to number 4. And it does it for good reasons. This house follows season 4 of The Walking Dead perfectly. I mean, from the start, at the prison, that's the exterior of it, and then you go inside, you go through scenes in the prison, and then you even get the breakaway, like what happens in that season. Sorry, spoilers once again for all of you who haven't watched it yet, but the main group of survivors that you followed with Rick and all of them, they start to disband because they were attacked, and it all leads to the end goal of Terminus, which is supposed to be the safe haven for those of you who watch the show.
But really, it's Golden Corral for people.
If you say so.
I don't watch the show, but I know that.
Spoiling everything. But this house is super long. Off the bat, it almost feels like it just goes on and on and on. The first night whenever we did it, I thought it was long, and then the second time we did it, I was expecting it to be kind of shorter because, once you're familiar with something, it goes by a lot quicker. However, it felt even longer the next time we did it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
One of the most terrifying houses, like as you go throughout, it does stick very, very close to the story of the season 4, and that's great. Zombies, if they're the type of thing that scares you, then this is going to be horrifying. However, they use a lot of strobe light tactics in this house to just terrify you.
Well, here's the thing. So of all the houses in Orlando, this is the scariest one for me that I went through. And I haven't seen the show. I want to watch it, so I probably will get there. So I had no real connection to the storyline. I thought it was interesting the way it progressed and the kind of the way it flowed. But it was just downright horrifying. There were 2 moments in particular that really affected me. And this kind of gets a little spoilery. There is a scene when you leave, I believe, the grocery store, and you are all of a sudden outside, even though it's still in the house. And they use the kind of old trick. It's probably like one of the most simple tactics to use in a haunted house, just mirrors and strobe lights to create the effect of a room full of people. However, there were probably only, I'd say, 4 or 5 scare actors in this room.
I wouldn't even say that. I'd say there's probably 3 in there.
There probably are 3.
Yeah.
But as you walk in this straight line, you're surrounded by people. What feels like there's 30 people around you. And it's super dark, and the only time you can see is when the strobe light comes on, and it's horrifying to get through that.
Yeah.
And it's probably only, 15 feet of space? It's not like you're walking this huge, long
I'd say about
hallway.
10 or 15. And
10 or
then
15.
they do kind of a similar one, the last scene
At the
before
end.
you exit,
Yeah.
and it's all these walkers trapped, or at least you think trapped behind chained fences.
Chain link
with
fences.
Just a ton of strobe lights just going off, disorienting you.
And it's a maze. It's you're not walking in a straight line. You're kind of walking around corners, and it's kind of this loopy shape that you're going in.
And then they pop out.
And they pop out of the chain link fence,
it's
and
just
they can reach
horrifying.
at you. So yeah.
Yeah.
This was a very scary house.
Yeah.
Very well done.
And there are so many characters in there. I feel like there could have been a little bit more to actually fill out the entire house. But you can't just hire everyone in the world. That's why it makes it at number 4 for me.
And actually, I just want to mention something quick here. They use an effect where it's just a big grouping of mannequin zombies that is lunged forward at you.
With strobe lights.
With strobe lights in the middle of the maze.
Yeah.
Which is a cool effect. It didn't necessarily scare me, but we will reference it later in the Hollywood episode. So I just wanted to mention it in here.
Cool beans. So moving on to number 3 of the house is Roanoke Cannibal Colony.
Yes, this was probably the one I was looking forward to most because I think that the way they integrated kind of the history aspect and kind of that really wooded, folksy kind of thing where you hear about this group of people that disappeared, and I think they did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I think the storyline's great. I think the design is fantastic. You start off, and this stuck out to me when you walk into the soundstage. The scares start right away. It's not like you go into the doorway and that's when the house starts. There's kind of like cornfields and kind of a forest set up around you, and that's when people start jumping out at you. So I thought that was cool.
No, it was. I don't have technically a lot to say about Roanoke Cannibal Colony. It was a great house. That's why it's so high up on the list. It was beautiful. They incorporated a lot of smells, a lot of burning smells too, and just... It was simple. It was cannibals, a lot of people eating each other almost in the same way that zombies do. It was just overall a really solid house, especially for being an original concept. Great use of stilt walkers.
I will say the finale is
end.
one of the best finales in any of the houses.
Absolutely. It's just everything was done the right way with it. It was exactly what I expected it to be. And I was so excited for it. So it's a great house. It's going to be one that I do a lot. And so far, from what I can tell, the wait times haven't ever been super incredibly high for it. Mm-hmm. So even better for anyone going. I would hit up this house as many times as we can.
Good.
So moving on to that, we are going back into the street zones, and we are going to give you our number 2, and that's MASKerade, Unstitched.
Unstitched. So this is actually an interesting one because it's in both Orlando and Hollywood Halloween Horror Nights. The theming here is a lot different, though. This is kind of themed after a masquerade ball. So you have people in big poofy dresses. You got lots of people with... candlesticks and things like that.
Yeah, they got their candlesticks. They're wearing their kind of like Phantom of the Opera, eyes wide shut masks.
Perfectly, yeah.
And they're walking around, and they'll kind of come after you. A ton of stilt walkers in this area.
Lots of stilt walkers.
Mostly stilt walkers. And with this one, they do a good job of scaring you. The ones who are on the ground, they'll kind of like pull back their masks, and
I don't agree with
their
that.
faces will be kind of torn apart. They do a better job, I think, than the Purge and absolutely Face Off. But
this is just a very pretty one to see because they have a big chandelier hanging above you. There's lots of fog used. There are some big prop candlesticks with kind of melted faces coming out of them. So this is just a really pretty one. I mean, the music's nice. It's kind of like eerie ballroom music.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You can just walk through, and I didn't get any scares actually. Maybe I just need to go back. Maybe it was just a different timing. But yeah, it's just a fun one. I think it's well done, but just an easy one.
Well, that was our number 2. Let's just go ahead and say our number 1 as well, so we can finish off big and strong with the houses. Number 1, Bayou of Blood. It's the last one, of course, and this is kind of themed to that southern New Orleans, Louisiana, Bayou-ish folklore type. And the biggest thing about this scare zone was that they were supposed to have a voodoo queen come out and do a sacrifice on top of the hour every hour. Unfortunately, the 2 times we got to go, we didn't get to see it. And after the first weekend, the
got
Voodoo
canceled.
Queen was no longer ripping anyone apart in that sadistic style, which is sad because I know you went back and watched a video on it.
I did. It was cool. However, I mean, it would be nice to have that kind of interactive show element to this scare zone. However, I think the scare zone in itself stands up. I think it's a really beautiful scare zone. You walk through, and it's very New Orleans Bayou voodoo kind of feeling. That's very dark. There's lots of lights used, skulls everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of lighting
They put in
projection.
a lot of fog in this area too.
lot of
and
fog.
It's in that park section between Hollywood and Kid Zone, so it's very wooded. Just really creepy in there, and some of the best scare actors too. There was one guy that was doing a lot of like crawling on the ground, trying to pop up and get people at the last second. With A for effort on that. More people need to do that and go 100% on it. But it's definitely the design aspects. Everything's put out. Walk through it during the daytime if you have the chance to see all the props. At night, whenever it's dark, it's a lot harder to see, but everything's out during the day. And
It is,
it's beautiful.
And it all still adds to it at nighttime, but it would be nice to be able to take a look at it during the day. And I think this is just a really cool one. There's lots of props that they use, and a lot of it's subtle.
Yeah.
It's not so much jumping in your face and kind of like getting up into your face. It's more of kind of they walk really slow past you, and then they'll kind of, and there's lots of like chanting and like speaking under your breath, like as if they're like doing kind of voodoo spells and stuff.
And they'll have the ones that come up behind you and just do that.
Exactly. Oh, there's like a woman that makes a pig noise, and she'll like snout. She'll like
do it
snort
right in your
face.
ear.
Yeah, it's creepy.
You can feel their breath on you.
Yeah.
It's
It's just not safe. It's not
It's a
sanitary.
great scare zone, though. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's
great. Bayou Blood.
number one.
Number one.
So on to the last 2 houses, though. Number 2, I thought it was going to be really hard to beat whenever we got the chance to do it on that first Halloween Horror Nights preview. But something did beat it. So Halloween comes in at number 2.
Which we talked about a lot in the preview episode because we were able to do it, I think, 4 times in a row on our media preview night. So we kind of covered that really well. I think it's one of the most well done houses I've ever seen. It's to the T. I mean, we talked to Michael Aiello, who is the creative director, and it's probably his favorite.
It's his
movie.
baby.
It is his baby. So he did really well on that. So it's just a fantastic house. You can't miss that one.
Yeah.
However,
any other year, I think that would have easily trumped.
No question.
It's probably one of my favorite houses that I've ever been through.
Yeah.
However, our number 1 house, Dollhouse of the Damned, is just so disgusting and vile and creepy and weird that
it is so creepy.
it is the epitome of what a Halloween Horror Nights house should be.
This one's completely original. This is not based on anything. This just is. This was a blank slate, and they just created the whole thing on their own. And I had no idea really what to expect. It was kind of the vaguest one.
Yeah.
That they announced. All you knew was it was going to have dolls and it was going to be creepy. But they just blew that out of the water. And you walk into this facade. It's in a tent actually, but the front of the tent is actually built up like this really crazy colored dollhouse, but it's like lots of weird shapes and angles, so it's really creepy going in. And I knew right away that it was going to be the scariest, or one of the scariest, because the people leaving the house were all kind of freaking out. They were like, "Did you see that? This was weird." And so you walk in, and it's like this weird old woman's house, and there's dolls everywhere. And you walk into a room with babies. And there's like mannequin babies, but then there's real babies, and it smells like poop when you walk in the room, which is freaky.
Yeah. And it kind of covers all of the different dolls you'd expect to see. So you do get those baby dolls. You get a Teddy Ruxpin.
You do,
Just stapled up on a wall. Awesome to see. And then the creepy bears that pop out of you. You have like porcelain ballerinas. It does a good job incorporating everything that you might expect to find in some deranged psycho's Victorian dollhouse.
Deranged is the perfect word. I mean, you see scare actors with dolls plastered on their faces.
Yeah.
You see like a grown-up scary baby sitting in a high chair, and it's just
by far the worst part is the poop smell, though.
Poop.
It is just. It's
Why does it gotta smell like
disgusting.
poop?
But it all does it. I walked out and I just had chills, kind of saying like, how did they decide to make this?
a crazy person made it.
However,
good crazy
they should
person.
be absolutely proud of themselves
yeah.
because it is above and beyond the best house.
Yeah.
And it's one that I cannot wait to get back and do again, along with Halloween and definitely some of the other top ones. But overall, it's just a completely solid year for Halloween Horror Nights at Orlando.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorites. I love Dollhouse and Halloween. Once again, those are the
two standouts.
Enough good things about them. If you have time to get there, then definitely go to Halloween Horror Nights this year. And if you can't get this year, then hopefully we'll be able to convince you to go out next year for it, because it is definitely the premier Halloween event in Florida, I would say.
In Florida, I would absolutely agree. It's a fun experience. They offer alcohol. You can go spend a night. You can get drinks. They got twisted taters, which is great. Just go spend a whole night if you like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep. Especially if you're into scaring stuff. If you're not,
absolutely,
it's not your thing. Then don't go. But that's actually going to do it for that segment. I just realized now we completely forgot to do a special game to give away a $50 American Express gift card.
Well, that's okay. We will make up for it next time.
Yeah, we'll make up for that next time, and we'll do something even more special. But that's going to do it for us right now on this episode. Stay tuned again, because we will have the special Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood overview with its mashup versus Orlando. Yeah. So stay tuned for that, and we will see you all again next time for another edition of the Diz Unplugged Universal Edition. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you again.